Hello there, my name is Wes Hartuv, and I'm going to be using my creative project to analyze Aristophanes' plays using both my favorite genre of music, which is heavy metal, as well as having reenactments of. So let's go ahead and open the curtains of the Great Dionysia. So we're going to begin by analyzing the play Knights. We're going to be analyzing that alongside Thucydides, and I think there are a few songs that epitomize Knights and Thucydides. So for Knights, we're going to be looking at two songs. We're going to be looking at the song Jesus Saves by Savatage, as well as the song The Pretender by Foo Fighters. And then for Thucydides, we're going to be looking at A Fine Day to Die by Bathory, as well as the song Power by Thaurorod. So let's go ahead and get into it. So when reading Thucydides and Knights, one of the first things that we'll notice is that Cleon is absolutely hated by both Aristophanes and Thucydides. Now, he was considered to be a populist leader at the time and was described by Thucydides as the most violent of all men. And so I think that this song perfectly epitomizes the way that people felt about Cleon, especially during the Sphacteria Pylos debacle. So on the island of Sphacteria off the coast of the city of Pylos, Cleon offered to take the leadership of a Athenian expedition that had encircled a group of Spartiates on the island of Sphacteria. And Thucydides basically said that any sensible man would be able to see that this was good, because Cleon would either die trying and we'd get rid of him, or he would succeed, which would be good for the city of Athens. So I think this song being called A Fine Day to Die and having horse sounds in the intro relating to knights as well, I think perfectly describes Cleon as a person. And I think a lot of people in Athens at the time probably did think that it would be, when Cleon did die, it was a fine day for him to die, because especially amongst the moderate oligarchs that we have multiple sources on, such as Aristophanes and Thucydides, I mean, they absolutely hated Cleon. So I think they would agree that it probably was a fine day to die when Cleon finally did die in 422 at Amphipolis. So I think this song does a good job of representing both Knights as well as Thucydides and tying Cleon into both of those themes. So before we continue with our analysis, I wanted to play a quick clip of lines 899 to 911 from Aristophanes' Knights, and this is performed by my two friends, Mason and Norton.
By Poseidon! That's exactly what I was told by the man from Dungtown.
And didn't you all fart each other brown?
God, yes. And a real brown shirt tactic it was, too.
You bastard! What clownish antics you used to fluster me?
Well, the goddess told me to beat you with the flimflameries.
But you won't beat me, I assure you. Demos, for doing absolutely nothing, I'll provide you with a bowl of state pay to lap up.
And here's a little jar of ointments for me, to rub your blisters on your shirts.
And I'll pluck out your white hairs and make you young.
Yeah, take this bunny tail and dab your daring eyes.
Blow your nose, Demos, and wipe your hand on my head.
No on mine.
So for the song The Pretender by the Foo Fighters, I think we've all heard this one before, and it's basically about a guy who's pretending, and he's saying, what if I'm not like the others? And I think that's kind of what we're getting with Thucydides and Aristophanes when they describe Cleon. They're describing him as trying to rally up the demos and trying to not be like the older generation of people like Pericles and Themistocles. He's trying to not be like the others, and they would view him as a pretender. He's pretending to be as powerful as those men. He's pretending to be a leader, when in reality he could never live up to what they were and what. So the song Jesus Saves by the band Savatage starts off with a scene of a homeless man in New York who's talking, and he's basically talking to the character in this concept album, and he's asking for spare change, and then he starts giving a story about what life used to be like. And again, I think this is just a perfect song that fits into what we're talking about, because they viewed him as poor. The whole character of Sausage Seller, as we saw in that scene previously, they're fighting for the love of Demos, and they're viewed as these people who sit in the agora in the central market and are just selling, and they're low-class citizens. And so in this song, we have this homeless man who's talking about the good old days of the city of New York, and I think that ties in perfectly to the themes within Nights about the good old days of Athens.
Hey man, you got a quarter? You ain't got nothing? That's okay, man, that's okay. God bless you anyway, man. Hey, I hope I didn't scare you or nothing like that. I ain't no bum or nothing. I used to live uptown once before too, you know. No, I did, really, I did. I used to come down here and look at all the characters. Never thought I'd be one of them, though. Characters, man. A lot of characters. Hey, you got a minute? You got a minute? Let me tell you a story about this friend of mine. D.T. Jesus.
So the last song I had for Thucydides and Nights is a song called Power by the band Thaurorod. And this song is basically about just being very powerful. It's a very upbeat, fast-paced song about power, kind of in the vein of warfare. And I kind of think that just fits into the whole background that we talked about, the backdrop of the Peloponnesian War. How that's always in the back of Aristophanes' play, and there's always this sense of power and this sense of both Sparta and Athens are looking to win the battle, and so I think that song also does a good job of encapsulating Nights and Thucydides. So now, before we discuss Clouds as well as Plato's Symposium and Apology to go alongside that, I wanted to have my friends reenact a few more scenes from Clouds, so we'll go ahead and watch that first. So the two scenes they're going to be reenacting are lines 153 to 166, and this is the scene in which Strepsiades first goes and meets one of Socrates' pupils. And then the other scene we're going to be looking at is lines 223 to 238, and this is the scene in which Socrates first meets Strepsiades.
That's nothing. Just wait till you hear another idea of Socrates. Wanna?
What? Please tell me.
Our chaperone was asking his opinion on whether gnats produce their humming sound by blowing through the mouth or through the rump.
So what did Socrates say about the gnat?
He said the gnat has a very narrow gut, and since the gut's so tiny the air comes through quite violently on its way to the little rump, then, being an orifice attached to the narrow tube, the asshole makes a blast from a force of all the air.
So a gnat's asshole turns out to be a boog. Thrice blessed man, what an enterology.
Why callest thou mere mortal?
First tell me, pray, just what are you doing up there?
I tread the air and contemplate the sun.
You're spying on the gods from a wicker basket? Why can't you do that if you must down here?
Never could I make correct celestial discoveries except by this suspending my mind and mixing my subtle head with the air it's kindred with. If down below I contemplate what's up, I'd never find aught, for the earth by natural force draws unto itself the quickening moisture of thought. The very same process is observable in lettuce.
How's that? It's thought that draws the moisture into the lettuce. Come down, Socraticans, come down here to me, so you can teach me what I've come to learn.
So for Clouds as well as Plato, I wanted to look at 4 songs. So for Plato's Apology, I wanted to look at the song Lover's Grief by Empyrium, which is about 2 lovers losing each other, and obviously Apology has that undertone of Socrates who's being on trial. Then I have the song Champagne's Supernova by Oasis for Plato's Symposium, which obviously is a reference to the wine that they're drinking. And then for Clouds, we have the song Nomad by Subterranean Masquerade, and this song is basically about a nomad who's going around and doesn't really know what he's doing, kind of like Strepsiades. And then the main song I really wanted to actually listen to is the song The Philosopher by Death. And this song is perfect because the entire song is about bashing philosophers for being too over the top and too intellectual and not just letting people live their lives. So let's go ahead and start with that one. So in the song The Philosopher, it starts off with the lyrics, "Do you feel what I feel, see what I see." So basically the lead singer Chuck is trying to say these philosophers are trying to, tell us what we should be doing with our lives and how to live a good life. But in reality, every person has a different circumstance, and you can't tell what a person feels or what every individual person sees. And that's very similar to what Aristophanes is pairing Socrates for in Clouds, obviously. He's parroting Socrates for over-analyzing basic things, as we saw in the scene with the moist lettuce and these sorts of things, and the gnat who's farting. I mean, he's over-analyzing everything, and that's kind of what this song is saying. And so, another thing is, hear what I hear. There is a line you must draw between your dream world and reality. So again, a lot of philosophers tend to think of the world as, especially Socrates, as being objective and us being able to fantasize about this perfect world and the perfect way a person can act in order to live a happy life. But at the end of the day, sometimes you have to just ground yourself back into reality and understand that you can't just be living in this dream world this entire time. And so that's obviously in the song, but I think it completely relates to what Socrates is talking about in Clouds. So I wanted to look at 2 more lines. So my favorite line from the song is, "So you preach about how I'm supposed to be, yet you don't know your own sexuality." So again, relating to what we've been talking about in class about sexuality in the Greek world and how a lot of these Greek men viewed sexuality in a very binary way, a lot of these philosophers are kind of preaching that idea of these binaries and using philosophical justifications for why that's correct. But, I mean, what he's saying in this song is, I mean, how can you preach an idea of sexuality onto others if you don't even know your own sexuality? And then another line from the song is, "The philosopher, you know so much about nothing at all." So I think that plays perfectly into the moist lettuce. I mean, you can know as much as you want about moist lettuce, but in reality, you know so much about nothing at all. You know so much about this very minute thing that in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter. And so out of all the songs I've chosen for my creative project, I think this song fits so well with Clouds. I think it's a perfect complement to the play. So for the song Champagne's Supernova by Oasis, I think this song is just perfect for Symposium with Alcibiades coming in, and I feel like he kind of turns their Symposium into a Champagne Supernova. Everyone is drinking wine, obviously, before, but it's very mild, and they kind of all agree that they're not going to drink that much wine. And when Alcibiades comes in, he turns the whole place into a Champagne Supernova, and people are handing each other large cups to drink wine out of. So I think that song does a great job of describing Symposium. So the song Lover's Grief by Empyrium, it's by a folk band, a folk metal band, and so they use a lot of flutes and a lot of kind of somber instruments. And when I was reading Apology, this song came to my head because I was thinking about, those types of instruments kind of have a sort of emotional aspect to them that I don't think you can get with guitar. And this song uses flutes, it uses a harp, and it uses all these instruments to describe the grief that lovers are going through. And I think that grief, maybe it's not lovers for Socrates, obviously, it's his own life on the line, but the sounds and the music that you hear in this song, I think, it encapsulates the grief that Socrates must have felt, and especially what Plato must have felt. So let's go ahead and listen to the song Nomad by Subterranean Masquerade to see how it relates to Strepsiades.
A bell says it's time for the prayers. Flowers thrown into the air. Subtle wishes to find a way. Nomad. How can I be all alone with all those people around? Can't anybody hear me out?
So in the song Nomad by Subterranean Masquerade, it's actually off of an album called Vagabond. And some of the lyrics in the song are, I came to conquer the land, but so far I'm drowning in sand. So we could view this as Strepsiades. He's coming to be able to conquer. He's trying to get rid of his debt, but every time he tries to understand, he's kind of, this buffoonish character who's not able to understand it. And then another line, I think, is, how can I be all alone with all these people around? Can't anybody hear me out? I think this also relates to Strepsiades. He wants to be heard. He has all these people around him who are trying to collect debt. He's in the peak of classical Athens, and he has all these philosophers, and yet he doesn't understand any of it. And by the end of the play, he's left feeling so alone because his own son, is hitting him and is unhappy with him, and is able to learn the same arguments that he was having trouble learning. And and he even burns down the Thinkery at the end of the play because, it's like, if the village doesn't like you, you end up burning it down. So I think this song, the song Nomad, does a good job of relating to clouds as well. So now let's go ahead and get into the play Birds. So to start off Birds, I'm going to have two of my friends reenact two scenes from the play this time because Birds is probably my favorite Aristophanic play. So they're going to be reenacting lines 468 to 487, as well as lines 1199 through 1229. So let's go see it.
Now then, about this idea of yours that you've come to sell us, explain it, and never fear, we won't break the truce till you do.
Well, I'm bursting to tell you, and I've got a special speech whipped up, which nothing stops me from kneading into cake, a garland, boy, and water from my hands right now.
We having dinner or what?
No, I've been long trying to make a big, juicy utterance that will shatter these birds to the very soul. So sorrowful I am for you, who were once kings.
Us kings? Of what?
Yes, you, of all that exists from yours truly up to Zeus himself, and born a long time ago before Corinth, and the Titans, and even Earth.
Even Earth?
Yes, by Apollo.
I certainly never heard that.
You're just ignorant and inquisitive, and you haven't thumbed with your Aesop. He says in fable that the larka was the first of all birds to be born before Earth, and then her father perished of a disease. But there being no Earth, he'd lain out for 4 days, and she didn't know what to do, till in desperation she buried her father in her own head.
That's why to this day the lark's father lies dead in the head?
So if they were born before Earth and before the gods, it would follow that the kingship is rightfully theirs by primogeniture.
By Apollo, it does.
Then you should plan on growing a beak, for Zeus won't be quick to relearn his scripture of the woodpecker.
Now then, it didn't used to be gods who ruled mankind, and were kings but birds, and I have lots of evidence for this. I'll start by showing you that the cock first ruled and reigned over the Persians before all of those Dergis and Megabazes, and that's why he's still called the Persian bird, in memory of that reign.
Ah, so that's why to this day Strutzrelli's the great king or something. The only bird who gets to wear his hat on cock.
You there, where are you flying? Still, stay right where you are. Halt! Stop that moving. Who are you? Where from? You better start explaining.
From the gods themselves I hail, the Olympic gods.
And what's your name, Palus or Salamina?
I'm Iris, the Speedy.
Well, are you boat or bitch?
What is this?
One of you cockerels, fly up there and grab her.
Grab me? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
You're going to be awfully sorry.
Well, this is quite extraordinary.
By what gate? Did you pass through the wall, you dirty slut?
I have absolutely no idea what gate.
Just listen to Miss Innocent up there. Did you accost our duty dolls?
Beg your pardon?
Did our storks punch your ticket?
How dare you?
You didn't accept a pass?
You're sane, I trust.
And no top cock was around to enter your passage?
Listen, mister, nobody's entered me at all.
And so you could just fly in this stealthy way through a city that's not yours and through the void?
But where else are the gods supposed to fly?
By Zeus, I have no idea, but not through here. In fact, you're breaking the law right now. Do you realize that if you got what's coming to you, you would deserve more than all other irises to be caught and executed?
But I'm deathless.
You'd be put to death anyway. Look here, it would be terrible, the way I see it, if we're going to be the rulers, but you gods intend to misbehave and ignore the facts. It is not your turn to obey your superiors. So tell me now, where are you navigating those wings?
So for the play Birds, I wanted to analyze 3 songs. I wanted to analyze the song Utopia by Akphaezya. Obviously, Birds has a lot of utopian themes. I wanted to analyze the song No Place Like Home by Subterranean Masquerade, and the song Sanctuary by Elder. So all of these songs kind of have utopian feelings, home feelings, that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and start with Utopia by Akphaezya. So the song Utopia by Akphaezya is by a French band, and it's actually based off of mostly Egyptian mythology. However, the song is about a utopia, and that's kind of similar to what we see in Birds with Cloud Cuckoo Land and our protagonists Pisistratus and Euelpides. So in the song, some of the lyrics are about a mom and a dad who are kind of having a dialogue with each other about how they're going to create a utopia. So one of them says, "Pray for the rain to wash ignorance." So we can relate that again to ancient Athens, where they're trying to go away to the city in the sky to get away from all the warfare and everything that's going on due to the Peloponnesian War. Another line is, "Who knows the clouds of constant fear?" So it's kind of like there's these clouds constantly over the people, and they're constantly in fear of these clouds. And I feel like that's another theme that we see in Athens, where you have, in Birds especially, there's this constant fear of being in Athens due to the war, and so why not just go make our own utopia? And that's kind of what they're saying in this song. So I think it does a good job of relating to the play. So another one of the songs that I think goes well with Birds is Sanctuary by Elder. And so what's cool about this song is it's a 12-minute long song, and it's kind of like a doomy, sludgy song, a lot of really strong guitar riffs. But the song is basically about creating the sanctuary in the sky, which again we see in Birds. And the song is by a band called Elder, and they do a really good job of creating very atmospheric music. And I think the whole theme of being in the sky and being in a sanctuary in the sky definitely fits with Birds. And then the last song I wanted to talk about is No Place Like Home by Subterranean Masquerade, a band we already saw with the song Nomad. And I wanted to go ahead and play a snippet of this song as well, because this song definitely relates to Birds.
We're controlled by big grey animals. Survival is the key for life. The hunter, Allah on his side, and no one really knows his right from wrong. So what's changed? Still feels like home.
So in the song No Place Like Home by Subterranean Masquerade, the protagonist of the song he's having an internal agon, I guess you could say, in his head. And he's trying to figure out, should he dig a hole and go form this new civilization where everything will go back to the way it used to be, or should he just stay at home? Because at the end of the day, there's no place like home. No matter where you go, it'll never be like home. And we see that in Birds with Athens as well, where even though you kind of have the fight going on with the gods and these people who are trying to become the gods, these birds who are almost becoming the gods, which seems, almost ridiculous for an Athenian play. I bet a lot of people in the audience had a feeling of, this is cool and this is very utopian and it sounds like a cool idea, but it'll never be Athens. It won't have the same people as Athens. It won't have the same buildings as Athens, the same landmarks as Athens, the same geography as Athens. And there's, at the end of the day, no place like home, no matter what you try to make your home. And the gods, their home is in the sky, and humans, our home is on the land. So we can try to theorize about the idea of possibly having some sort of bird civilization, cloud cuckoo land, but at the end of the day, for most Athenians, there's no place like home. So for the play Lysistrata, I went ahead and picked 2 songs. I picked the song The Culling by Iced Earth, as well as the song Rivers Between Us by Draconian. So let's go ahead and listen to Rivers Between Us by Draconian first.
The cuts on your skin, the red in my eyes. This winter inside is crushing me now. I am alone, I am scorned. I can't remember to forget you. I just weather the storm. The love that I had, it drowned with the tide.
So regarding Lysistrata, we talked a lot about whether or not the play itself is a play that depicts women in a positive way. Does it depict women in a negative way? Is there some sort of in-between? And I think the song Rivers Between Us is a great example of how there can be an in-between. It is a female singer, Heike Langens, and a male singer who are coming together and singing a song about rivers between us, about basically creating bridges between multiple people, and understanding that there's similarities between everyone and that you can create bridges. So I think with Lysistrata, at least when we were talking about it, my opinion of it was that it's neither. It's neither a vehemently pro-female play or a vehemently anti-female play. I think there's elements of both within the play, but I think at the end of the day, for the time, it's definitely way more pro-female than anything I've ever personally read. And so I think Rivers Between Us, having the male and the female singer, definitely shows that balance that you can have when you're reading Lysistrata. So the second song we're going to look at is a song called The Culling by Iced Earth. So The Culling is a song that talks about enslaving the masses and about the culling being over, this culling that's going to be taking over this town. The album is referring to the city of Babylon, but I think regarding the oligarchic coup of 411 and also Lysistrata, I think this song is super relevant. We talked about how there might have been a sense of Aristophanes not feeling like he had his full comedic license during Lysistrata due to the oligarchic coup that happened. And obviously, to us modern readers, when we hear the word oligarch and we hear the word coup, we immediately think of, enslaving the masses like they say in the song and, losing your freedoms and that sort of thing. So I think The Culling is a good representation of the historical context behind Lysistrata at the time. So for our scene from Lysistrata, we're going to be looking at lines 1092 to 1112, and this is the scene where the Spartan and Athenian ambassador are arguing with each other, and they announce Lysistrata.
You'll cover up if you've got any sense. Some fundamentalists might chop it off. God, yes, good thinking.
That is very straight. Advice. Come on, let's pull the trousers up.
So, greetings, Spartans. Shameful situation.
That comrade. Terrible. But what would be worse if destined religious ones had seen us?
Alright then, Spartans. Time to play our cards. The reason for your visit?
Negotiation. For peace.
That's very good. We want the same. So, now, we've got to call Lysistrata. For she alone can be our arbitrator.
Lysistrata. Whoever.
Doesn't look as if we need to call her. She must have heard us here. And here, oh, here she comes just now. Hail to the bravest of all women! Now, you must be more besides. Firm but soft, high class but low brow, strict but lenient, and versatile. Delegates from every city captured by the potent charms come before you and request your arbitration of their cause.
So for Women at the Thesmophoria, I'm going to be talking about 2 songs. I'm going to be talking about the song Try to Disappear by Baroness and Lightbringer by Seven Spires. I'm also going to be having my friends perform the famous scene in which Mika and the kinsman are talking, and the kinsman picks up her, what she thinks is her baby, and pulls out a knife and pretends to stab it.
Go ahead, pile them, but tell me one thing. Do you claim you were giving birth to this?
Get her in all 9 months myself.
You carried it?
I swear by Artemis.
How big was it? A magnum, perhaps?
How dare you? You've undressed my child. Disgusting. A tiny baby.
Tiny. It is pretty small by Zeus, but how many years old? 3 wine jug festivals or 4?
Not right. Plus a Dionysia. Give her back to me.
No, by Apollo here.
We'll have to incinerate you then.
By all means, incinerate away. But this little girl will get sacrificed on the spot.
Don't do it. I beseech you. Do what you want with me, but spare her.
You've a good mother's instincts, but nonetheless, this girl's going to get her throat cut.
Give me the slaughter bowl, Mania, so I can at least catch my own child's blood.
Hold it under there. I'll do this for one favor.
Damn you to hell! You're hateful and cruel.
The hide here goes to the priestesses.
So let's go ahead and analyze the song Try to Disappear by Baroness.
As my lungs deflate, you help me suffocate. We have no need to breathe. You try to disappear so long.
So in the play Woman at the Thesmophoria, we obviously have the idea of a gender spectrum and some characters who are super masculine, kind of masculine, feminine, and then super feminine. And then within that, we also have the idea of cross-dressing and gender bending, and we have sneaking into the women's festival at the Thesmophoria. We obviously just saw that scene with Kinsman, who is the most masculine character, pretending to slash Mika's baby. And so I think the song Try to Disappear, trying to disappear into this crowd of women at the Thesmophoria, trying to sneak into the women's festival, and it not exactly working. So, yeah. So I wanted to analyze the song Lightbringer by Seven Spires, and I think what's cool about the song is they actually have a dance number within the song, which is something we talked about for Aristophanic comedy. So let's go ahead and watch the dance number from the song, and then talk about how the song relates to the play.
Going down, down, down to a heaven underground where two's a party and three's a crown. You want it, you'll find it if you open your mind.
this song is performed by an extremely talented band called Seven Spires. The lead singer of that song, her name's Adrienne Cohen. She went to the Berklee College of Music in Massachusetts. I'm a huge fan of their music. But I think what's really cool about the song is this was the band's 4th album, and they decided to put on a dance number in the song. And when I was reading Women at the Thesmophoria, you have the theme of women, obviously, this all-women's play. And then within this song, you have this all-women's dance that's going on, these women who are putting on this dance number. And it made me think of maybe there was possibly something like that, maybe not a song so much, but something that had to do with some sort of dance number that happened in the Women at the Thesmophoria. And I also think that this song is an excellent transition into analyzing our next play, which is Frogs, because in Lightbringer, they talk about going into the underworld and going into the underground, and in the music video they're on a ship and they're having some sort of gathering, and on the top floor is where all the men and women are eating food and having a good time, and then underneath the deck is where all the women hang out themselves and do their dance number and, have a good time. So I think it's a good song to analyze Women at the Thesmophoria, and it's also a great transitioning point into analyzing our last play, which is Frogs. So for Frogs, we're going to be analyzing, in my opinion, one of the funniest Aristophanic scenes in all of his plays. It's going to be lines 478 to 495. It is where Dionysus shits his pants. So let's go ahead and watch that scene.
Hey, what's the matter?
My butt runneth over. Let us pray.
Stand up right now, you clown, before somebody sees you that we don't know.
But I feel faint. Please give me a wet sponge for my heart.
Here, apply this. Where are you putting it? Your golden gods? Is that where you're keeping your heart?
Yes, it got scared and sneaked down to my colon.
You're the very worst coward in heaven and earth.
A coward? Me, who asked you for a sponge, something no other man would have dared?
What else?
If he were a coward, he'd have lain in his own stink, but I got up and wiped myself as well.
Ah, Poseidon, what bravery.
That's certainly what I think. Say, weren't you terrified by those noisy rants and threats?
Nope. Never even gave them a thought.
So the two songs I wanted to analyze for Frogs are Pull Me Under by Dream Theater, as well as Mr. Bungle, My Ass is on Fire, which relates to the scene that we just watched. I thought it was kind of a comedic song to put in. And then I kind of wanted to wrap it up by putting some ending songs, specifically the song Empire Falls by Primordial, which is about the Roman Empire falling, and what parallels we can draw between that song and the fall of the Athenian Empire, obviously right after Frogs. So the song is pretty self-explanatory. It's just kind of a comedy song about, I guess, the gentleman singing the song. Fun fact, lead singer of, what's the band called? Faith No More. The lead singer of Faith No More is the same lead singer of this band. This is like his comedy side project, and it's literally just a song about his ass being on fire, kind of like what happened to Dionysus in Frogs, so I thought I would just throw that one in there. So the other song we're going to be looking at is Pull Me Under by Dream Theater, which is a song about getting pulled under into the underworld, which obviously relates to Dionysus' journey into the underworld with his slave Xanthias. So this song is about being pulled under into the underworld. Pull Me Under, I'm Not Afraid. It's by a band called Dream Theater, which is known for their concept albums. And so this is basically the start of the album. The album's called Images and Words. And at the beginning of the song, it's about a person getting pulled under into the underworld. So just like what happens with Xanthias and Dionysus, how they have to go on this whole trip in the underworld, trying to find the poets Aeschylus and Euripides, specifically Euripides, and then having the Agon at the end of the play. But I thought this song just a super, super cool song, and the theme of being pulled under is super cool. So I was thinking of adding in Every Breath You Take by the Police for Euripides' Bacchae, but I figured that this video is probably already around 40 minutes, so I'm not going to be adding that one in, but I did want to add just one last song to end as the outro to this, which is Empire Falls by Primordial. It's about the fall of the Roman Empire, and obviously there's some parallels we can draw between that and the fall of the Athenian Empire, which occurred in 404 BC, right after Frogs was written in 405 BC, and that you have the reign of the 30 tyrants from 404 to 403 BC. And so I think it's a really interesting song to listen to. And I think that there are parallels we can draw between the fall of the Roman Empire, the fall of the Athenian Empire, with America as well. Just with being kind of this large empire that is ruling over the entire known world. And so thank you so much for listening. I really enjoyed doing this creative project. I really enjoyed having my friends able to kind of, join me in filming scenes for the video. And thank you so much.